Okay, I'm back. I've had the crust in the oven for 7 to 8 minutes, and you can see it's just a nice golden brown, and we just need that to cool. So I'm just going to set that over to the side, and we're going to get started on the cream filling. So the first thing you want to do is get all your ingredients organized. One of the ingredients that the recipe calls for is 4 egg yolks, slightly beaten. So that's where I want to start. You're going to need to separate your egg yolks from your egg whites, and we're going to use the egg whites in another recipe, so I'm just going to not use them today, but put them to the side and use them for tomorrow. So to separate an egg, you want to start by cracking the egg just on a countertop, and then open up the shell so that it's in as much as 2 equal parts as you can. And the egg white should start just falling off of the egg yolk as soon as you open it up. And now I'm just very gently tossing the egg yolk back and forth between the 2 shells until all the egg white comes off. Once you're successful, you drop your egg yolk in one bowl and your egg white in another bowl. Not a good idea to do this right over your main mixing bowls, because if the yolk breaks and gets into the white, we can't use these egg whites for a meringue-based recipe. Egg yolk contains fat, and we don't want any of that fat in our egg whites, so we just have to be very careful with that. So I'm going to set the egg whites over to the side. Today's recipe, I'm going to use what's called a double boiler. So it's a pot system that has one pot sitting inside of another pot. Our ingredients for today's recipe are going to go in the top pot, and in the bottom pot I have brought water to the boiling point, and it's very close to boiling, so I'm just going to turn it right down on low. If you don't have a double boiler like I have here, you can just as well use a regular pot and put a bowl inside of it. Okay, and you want the bowl a little bit bigger than the pot so that it stays up above the water. So my water is really boiling here. I'm just going to take the top pot off and make sure it's turned right down. Also, this recipe you could make directly into a pot and not use a double boiler system. You just have to be very careful. The milk that we're cooking with today can burn very easily, so you'd have to stir really carefully so as not to let it burn. Okay, so moving on with our recipe now. The first thing it says to do is mix sugar and cornstarch. So I have 1.5 cups of sugar. I'm just going to put into my pot, and 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch, and I'm going to start by stirring those ingredients together. It's the cornstarch in this recipe that's going to cause the milk mixture to thicken up, and if the cornstarch isn't separated in the sugar first, we could get some lumps forming. So that's the first step, is just stirring the cornstarch and sugar together well. The granules of sugar will break up the cornstarch so that it is in a nice, even, fine distribution. From that, we're going to add 3 cups of milk. And this is a pretty good size recipe, so my pot is almost bordering on being too small. I've just moved this up on top of my double boiler so I can kind of start the whole heating process. It's going to take a while to heat the milk enough to bring it to the boiling point, and ultimately that's what we want to do, is bring this milk cornstarch sugar mixture to the boiling point. So I'm just going to gradually add in my milk, making sure that I don't have any lumps, so stirring that around really well. And the recipe says here to cook over medium heat, stirring constantly until the mixture thickens. So this in my pot needs to come to the boiling point. So it'll start steaming, and then it should actually start having bubbles form on the surface of the liquid. Then you know it's at the boiling point, and you're going to want to let that boil for 1 minute. So once I'm at that point, I'll come back to you.